Welcome back to the Irish Dominican video series. In our last video, we started a conversation on the stages of joining God's team and family.
Last time we focused our attention on the role of baptism. We noticed that it was very much like taking the first stage of playing football professionally, in that we sign a contract that binds us to our team. Still, we will need to go through further training before we can play on the main team.
In this video, we want to fast forward a little and look at what it is like belonging to the main team of our faith, namely the sacrament of confirmation.
While most of us will never know what it's like to play football professionally, all of us do get to a stage in our teenage years where we look forward to growing up and to doing grown-up things, like having a drink or driving the car, going to university or even working.
But growing up is not all about discovering and enjoying your newfound freedoms. It also comes with its newfound responsibilities. In a similar way, confirmation marks the beginning of your spiritual adulthood in the church.
What are some of the newfound freedoms that we receive at confirmation?
Well, in the sacrament, the bishop says to the candidate, "Receive the gift of the Holy Spirit." Of course, the Holy Spirit has already been given to us in baptism. However, in confirmation, we receive a deepening of these gifts. The reason we need a deepening of these gifts is because as adults in the faith, we need to take primary responsibility for our lives. That is why the bishop asks the Holy Spirit to be our helper and guide through our lives.
During the confirmation ceremony, we are given 7 gifts of the Holy Spirit, which help us on our life journey. These are wisdom, understanding, right judgment, courage, knowledge, reverence, and wonder and awe in God's presence. These gifts are supposed to help us become who we are meant to be, saints. If these are the gifts that are given to us, what are the newfound responsibilities that they come with?
The gifts God gives us in confirmation equips us to work in the church's mission, to bring others to Christ. Each one of us has a special role to play, different from everyone else's. For example, on a football team, there are many roles, each with their own skill set. If any of those positions are not filled, the team remains vulnerable. Likewise, in the church, all believers have their place and role, and without you filling it, the church will suffer.
As we've discussed before, the sacraments can be found in the life of Christ. Our basis for the sacrament of confirmation can be found in the story of Pentecost. On the day of Pentecost, the disciples were gathered together, praying in the upper room, when suddenly the Holy Spirit came upon them. Leaving the upper room, the disciples went out and began the work of setting up the church.
What we see here is that Jesus' followers went from being Christ's disciples, listening and learning about the mysteries of God from Christ himself, to being sent out to the whole world, preaching the gospel to all people and setting up churches. In this we can see how baptism is a call to discipleship and confirmation is a call to mission.
When we talked about baptism, we talked about the use of water as a symbol of spiritual cleansing from sin and death. What symbols do we use in the sacrament of confirmation, and what do they mean?
There are 2 outward signs that distinguish confirmation from other sacraments. In the New Testament, we find this reoccurring in the idea of baptism and the laying of hands. In the Acts of the Apostles, chapter 8, we're told that the Christians who had been baptized had not yet received the Holy Spirit through the laying of hands. The other important sign is the oil of chrism. This sign was very important in the Old Testament, as prophets, priests, and kings were all anointed by oil. As a sign, these people were consecrated for sacred purposes.
Interestingly, Christ means anointed one. So when we call Jesus by the name Christ, we are recognizing that he is consecrated for a sacred role.
And so we are, as Christians, as little Christs, we are also fully consecrated to that sacred threefold ministry of Christ through confirmation. As prophets, to teach the faith, as priests, to offer proper worship and sacrifice to God, and as kings, in establishing God's kingdom on earth.
So let's bring everything together that we've discussed in this video. When we are confirmed, we become ready to partake in the church's missionary activity to bring souls to Jesus. To achieve this goal, God has given us a share of His Spirit by giving us the necessary gifts to do this.
The Holy Spirit is like our coach. It is He who guides us in our training, and it is He who decides the part we play on the team. As a confirmed member of the church, or for us on the way to confirmation, it might be good to ask the Holy Spirit to show you the part you can play in the church's mission, or what are the hindrances to living this mission.
This brings us to the end of this video. Thank you for joining us.